So hopefully you can hear me all really well now, and we'll get started. So welcome again to the District 1 EMRS Power Apps demo, mainly for network associates, but I do see we have 27 participants so far, so we've got quite a big group. And that's mainly because I added high-end or power users and their EPIs that cover District 1 states where we don't have network associates. So I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that has joined us today. I do see Brian joined us and Cheryl or Sherry as part of the EMRS team. Cody is also on. I don't think Shelly will be able to join us today because she's out today. But thank you once again for joining. I am sharing my screen, even though I'm not going to do anything right now with the screen. So I do want to talk about or give a little bit of updates regarding what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks and what's expected of you all as network associates. So please know that I do have another District 1 session, this demo next Friday, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. You are all welcome to join us again because we will be providing updates, based on the testing that you're all doing and the construction that's going on in the next week. And so more FYI for you, network associates do have access to the Power Apps test environment, which is what I'm going to showcase today. But the rest of the users that are on this call that are not network associates, you don't have access to it. But we do want it to give you a behind the scenes demo so that you can start at least looking at it and what's coming up in the next week or so. Right. The plan is to migrate August 30th, and that's over the Labor Day weekend. And hopefully we'll get there, but I'm sure Brian will give us additional information. And FYI, we don't have a training instance yet. It's just this sandbox test environment. And please, as you continue to test, reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to give you, one-on-one training and help you with the upcoming training sessions that you'll be scheduling with your states. And so with that, Brian, do you have any additional information you'd like to share or your wonderful words of wisdom?
That makes me laugh a little bit. No, I don't. You've done a great job introducing it. As Noelia mentioned, we are shooting for August 30th, so we are shooting for a couple weeks from now. Admittedly, there's a lot to do in the next 2 weeks, and so keep your ear to the ground as to whether or not we'll need to push that back or not. Our hope is that we don't have to, but we will be making a go, no-go decision probably at the end of next week to decide if we can hold to that date or not. There are several things that are outside of our control that we're trying to work through with IT and stuff like that, as well as a few other critical pieces that the contractor still needs to finish for us before we can make that go, no-go decision. So if we have to extend it a little bit, of course we will for the betterment of the program. But on the flip side, we do want to go ahead and as soon as we can make the transition. As you can all imagine right now, with all things considering, we're experiencing less workload with AI than we have in the past several months. And so it might be a good time to make that transition. With that being said, the ducks are going to start flying again soon. And so we want to make the transition while it's as slow as possible. And we don't want to get deep into the fall to make it. So if we can do that here at the end of August, we're sure going to try. If, like I mentioned, there are things that don't get lined up like we hope, we may have to push it back. But rest assured that as soon as we can make this jump, we're going to. And as far as the actual date, though, that's still fluid. So that's all I've got. Thanks, Noelia, for the great introduction, and very much thank you for all that are attending today. Noelia is going to go over some great new exciting stuff. You will see some errors and that kind of stuff as we go through it that we're still working through and fixing. And please recognize that whenever we do make this jump, there will be bugs and things we're going to have to fix. And so we're going to ask for your patience with us and your cooperation as we fix those, because we're literally moving over 1,000 workflows and dialogues and 15 million plus records. And so there's going to be some stuff, right? But rest assured that, as we find stuff, we're going to do our best to fix them as fast as we can. And of course, we're continuing to test now and fix them ahead of time as we find them. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Noelle, for leading this discussion. And that's all I've got. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so moving along, last week, if I remember right, Brian gave a first glance at the EMRS Power Apps platform to network associates. And so today is just another opportunity for not just network associates, but they've actually invited several state, high-end users or power users, so that you can see what is the EMRS Power Apps platform, how it's coming along. And so the purpose of this is to have network associates test the system using the applications and the tables, which is kind of a new term, and using those based on the applications and tables that the state primarily uses on a daily basis. So hopefully you can test that and let us know, what's working, what's not. And so as Brian mentioned, not much has changed as far as EMRS applications. The hierarchy of records, that remains the same. It all starts from a premises, and I always like to refer, as the hierarchy, looking at our files or our cabinets and our drawers, right? And so everything will be from the premises record. And as you move, into those records, and we'll look at this here in a bit, using the Power Apps application, but that basically remains the same. It's just looking at things and navigating in a different button, and where those things have moved a little bit. But you guys are power users or network associates. I am sure that you're going to get this or the hang of this and the little changes that are being made moving forward. So any questions so far before I start moving into navigating the sandbox? Any questions you may have? If not, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll make sure to get those answered either throughout the demo or as soon as we're done here. We'll have some questions session. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen, and my cursor is moving just to make sure you can see that. I'm in the sandbox, okay? And so for network associates that do have access to that sandbox, have looked at it, like I said, not much has changed, right? So the header here in the sandbox, that pretty much remained the same, with the exception that our handy dandy recently viewed icon is no longer in the top left corner here, where we have several icons. That has moved to our banner on the left side, where we have all of our, the navigation pane and our applications area. And we'll get to that here in a bit. But know that the icons, that we mainly use, we still have the advanced find and then our settings. And so, of course, you know what to do with the settings, but don't forget that it's still there so that you can update those settings. And so when it comes to the navigation pane, and so for those that have been with with using EMRs for several years, we're back to having the navigation pane in the left. And so that's the main difference now. Instead of having it where we have it in main EMRS 2 production or in that blue, or depending if you're in the training side, the purple ribbon at the top, across the top, now everything lives in the navigation pane on a left-hand side. And so as we look at these, and we'll get to these here in a bit, but as we look at our navigation pane, these are now called our tables, which we used to say, or in EMRS 2, we call those entities, right? But to get started, right, is the application area. And that's the huge other big change, is that our application area is way at the bottom, left-hand bottom corner. This is where you will find all the our applications area for, the EMR's home, disease management, resource management, and enterprise reporting, as well as settings. But you all mainly use, either EMR's home or disease management. So just keep in mind, it just looks a little bit different because now it's way at the bottom here on the left navigation pane. But everything remains the same as far as home management or disease management, resources, enterprise, and knowledge. And so, of course, if you click on EMR's home, which is what you're seeing here in the main page, we're still seeing the views that associated with the application area that you've selected. So right now I clicked on home. So under home, we still see the same, right? It's training materials, events, task. I do like that we put the premises in our inspection task. So that's kind of new and handy to have premises under task as well. But we still have, our 213 or our supply request. And then access request is still under EMR's home. So that hasn't changed. If I click on what we call tables now, or what we used to call them as entities, takes a little bit to view or to upload, right, the views. So bear with us, or bear with the system, because it does take a couple of seconds. But the task, just wanted to show you how we still have the same views, right? But there's much to navigate, to develop these views. And we'll see that here in a bit. You can also, the same hot links that we have, just like we currently have for EMRS, you still have those associated with the views. And you can click on any hot link, and that's going to take you to that record. So I'm just going to go back here to our applications area, because I want to take you to the disease management. I'm sure that's what everybody wants to see, right? And so now, once I click on disease management, once again, I have the same tables or entities that we're used to seeing in EMRS. So this all stays pretty much the same as far as records associated. It's just looking at the navigation pane on the left side, which we need to get used to. And so, our views are pretty much the same. And then the icons up here in right below our ribbon, we still have several things that we'll show you here in a bit, but we still have, the show chart. And that's different because that used to be directly on our view. Refresh, we won't be using the visualize this view yet. You can still email a link of the view. The flow, we won't be using that. We're not that yet, the run report, but we still have the capability to export, right, to Excel, and all the information that's associated on a view. We also have the import to Excel. And then this is a little bit new, is the create view, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. And then we also have the capability to share views, and we'll go through that here in a bit as well. So when we're looking at views, we still have, that you can select your views. And one thing that I wanted to mention and showcase is that it's just another thing that changed and what we're used to is that when you use the caret, right, or the drop down to look at views, we still have system views, and you still have the views that you or your personal views under my views, but they're kind of inverted. And when I say inverted is we're used to seeing the views that you create, or your personal views at the bottom, and the system views at top. And now it's changed. So now we're seeing the system views at the bottom, and then your personal views are those that you've created or that someone has shared with you. You'll see those listed at the top. All right. But pretty much this is the same. I do want to open just one premises record. So we look at the premises record and see individual records, and then we'll come back to views. Okay. So I'm just going to click on this one premises record in Florida, just so you can see that the premises record, all the information in the premises record pretty much stays the same. It's just, seeing things in a different way. It just looks a little bit different. But trust us, everything here remains. All the information is there for you to look at and work with. And so we've got the premise information and pretty much, all the information for that prem ID, and then additional attributes that, where we find the GPS coordinates and what you're used to. But now we have tabs here at the top of the premises record. To get to the notes section, you click on the notes, and then we have the related drop down, and this is pretty much the same for all the entities associated with the premises record. One thing that I'd like to show is and talk about, since I'm here in the premises record, is for now, because it is still under construction, the only mapping capability that we have in the sandbox is the premises map. And so you can still click on the map of premises, and that is still working. It does take a while to upload, but that is pretty much working the same you're used to. And I say it's the only mapping capability that we have right now, because for those that are used to working with heat maps from the advanced find, that's not working yet. And I'm not sure if we'll have that. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. And then the advanced mapping is still under construction, so we won't be having that yet, or at least up until today. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to add.
So the heat map will be brought in. Fred has to do a special little piece to make that happen, but it's not going to be a high priority. So we'll bring the heat map in probably after the migration, would be my guess. As far as the advanced map goes, the goal, we will have the advanced map. That is most certainly the goal to do before migration. The contractor, I believe, was supposed to have that done yesterday, but when I checked it yesterday evening, it still wasn't quite up yet. So that is on his priority list. And so the advanced map should be there before we do our migration. That's the current plan. Thanks, Noelia.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. So once again, just the premises level map is currently available. All right. One other thing, I won't go into all the details of the related, because you guys know how to navigate and get to the associated records on all of these, right? Not just the prem record. But one big change that we do have is that in order to create a premises, you do have to open a prem record and see the create premises icon or button at the top of the menu. And so if you need to, as you're used to, we were used to going to the view of premises, and from there we would go to, click on any of the prem records in your state, and then you would activate the new premises button. But that's not the case right now. So you do have to click on a premises in your state. And once you're in that premises record, then you see the button to create a new premises. I'll just click on that. And we won't go through because we're still having some issues with creating premises. But the nice thing about it is that once you're in the create the premises dialog, when you see this app permissions, just click on don't allow. We will be seeing this information so that it doesn't pop up. So just don't allow this app's permission. And then notice that, you'll just give it a little while. But because I was in Florida, even though I haven't added any information, it's pulling up records that are already in Florida. So the nice thing is that when you create a prem, as soon as you start entering information, just putting this here, if I'm putting Joe's farm, notice how at the bottom it's telling me, hey, there is a Joe's farm already in the system, but this is only pulling information that's currently in the system. And so That's a nice thing about it, is that it's pulling so that you avoid duplicating records in the system. But if you have something different, then you can go ahead and enter that information. And then if it doesn't find anything, it's going to allow you to validate the address and then create premises. I'm not going to go into those details right now because it is not working properly. But trust us, that's undergoing construction, and we'll have that ready hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So let me just X out of that. I do think it's very handy that and I wanted to show how it is pulling premises that already exist in the system, so we avoid duplicating records. All right, so that's as far as premises go. We do have the, let me go back because this one doesn't have a primary business. I'm just going back to the view of premises. And I'm cheating here because I'm looking for one that does, right? So, we still have the hot links. I'm in the perm record. If I click on hot links, that's going to take me to, in this case, the primary animal business, just like we have it in EMRS production, right? Or in EMRS 2. And so you guys know how to do this. You guys know how to navigate. It's pretty much the same, right? Notice how from the animal business record, you can still navigate because we do have those hot links back to the premises. But then we also have those hot links back that can take you to the primary contact, etc. All right. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is looking views and how we can edit views and how we can play around with views, because that is handy dandy and it's getting much better in Power Apps. So I did cheat a little bit. I do have some views already, or personal views already created. But when you go to system views, and I'm just going to click on any of these active premises views, I won't go into the details of the advanced find because that has not changed at all. And so you guys are experts as far as creating views from your advanced find. And if you click on advanced find, that still remains exactly the same. So I won't bore you with that. But it does take a while to upload, right? But I do want to show you how that has not changed at all. That remains exactly the same. So I'll close that out here in a bit. But you can still make some changes to views, right? And for example, if from this active premises system view, I want to look at premises, I want to filter directly in the column. Let's say I just want to see premises in Virginia. And so I'm just entering Virginia. I'll click apply, and then that brings up, or should, here in a bit, all my Virginia premises. And I can expand, any of the columns if I want to expand this here to no active investigations. I can do that. And then notice how from the system view now, there's a little asterisk next to the system view name, right? And that's just telling me that I have some changes in the view that I haven't saved. And so what's nice about this icon here, or my button here, the create view at the top, don't click on create view, but rather the caret next to it. And then notice how we have a save as new view. Okay, so we'll click on that. And that's going to bring up the same dialog that we had previously, that we're used to. So bear with me here a sec. I'm just saving that as my Virginia active premises, and I'll go ahead and click save. Okay, so notice how it saved those premises for Virginia, and it actually saved how I expanded that view. So there's just certain, handy things that we can do directly in the view instead of going, having to go back to our advanced find. The other handy thing is our edit columns icon here directly in the view. You can click on edit columns. And that's just bringing the columns that we have in the view. We can sort from here. You can add, you can delete. For example, I've got the front gate coordinates, but maybe I want to add not just the front gate, but I also add the geo coordinates. Okay, so I could just click on the add button and then select the geo coordinates. And notice how as soon as I click on it, it disappears. I click close, and now it's at the bottom here. I can drag these because I want them next to my front gate coordinates. And so that's pretty handy. All right, I can drag my primary business up here near the prem name and the prem ID. Okay. And if I want to delete anything, let's say I don't want the prem name, I just want the primary business. I can go ahead and click on the ellipses here next to prem name and remove. Okay, once I have that done, I'll click apply. Notice how now that has been, the prem name has been deleted. It added the primary business associated on the premises. I've got my geo coordinates added to the view. So everything that I moved and added or deleted has been updated. But once again, I see my asterisk here. So that means that changes to the view have not been saved. And you know how that works. We get excited, we start making changes, and then we forget to save. So always remember to click on the Save Changes to the Current View. And then that will have, filters have been saved for the current view. We're used to that. Okay. The other thing that we can do is our edit filters here from the same view. And that's going to bring up something very similar, right, to what we're used to seeing in the advanced find, right? And notice how this is, like I said, very similar to what we're used to seeing in the advanced find. And then, you can make changes directly to the edit filters here. I won't make any right now. I'll cancel this because I think you guys can get a handle of this. But Brian and Sherry, this is where I know we had some discussions yesterday, and hopefully I got this and I'll be able to explain. So one thing that I want to show is we were having several issues when we start from a system view. And let me see, and maybe it's just from the investigations, but let's see. So if I click on the advanced find here, the changes that I made to the view should have saved. All right, and in this case, it didn't. We don't have, actually it did. We do have, the state equals Virginia, right? And then if I see my edit columns, we still have the changes that we made directly in the view have been saved. And so that's working well, but I know that if you come up with some issues at the investigations level, we can help on that. We do have some changes, and we can talk about it here in a little bit. All right, let's see, because I know I've got other things to showcase when it comes to our views. All right, so one thing that I want to show here, since I've got the Virginia active premises, where let me change here because I do have, one thing that I can do is save or share this view. Not sure if Jillian is on, but let's see. We can, since I'm here in my Virginia active premises, you all know how to share a view from your advanced find. And so one other handy dandy button is here is the share icon. We click on that drop down, click on manage access, and then directly from the view, I can go ahead and share this with a user. All right. So I'm looking for Jillian because I know Jillian covers Virginia. All right. I select her name, and then once I select the name to manage her access, I can click on her name here, and then that's going to allow me to give her whatever permissions I want to give her. And so since I'm creating a view for her, I'm going to give her everything. I'm going to give her read, write, and share. I won't give her delete. So just in case I need this, we won't lose that. But I'll click share. I think this is really handy that you can do this directly from the view, right? So there, that view has been shared with Jillian, and she should be able to see it. Hopefully that has been saved as well. We can always verify if we go to the advanced find, which you all know how to do this now, right? And here's my Virginia active premises that I just created. And if I go to share, hopefully it is being shared with Jillian, right? If I need to remove Jillian from that, then of course I can click on Jillian and remove, selected items so that I don't share that with her anymore, but I won't do that, right? I know you guys can do this. All right, so that's as far as sharing, which is somewhat different, and I think it's handy to do it directly from the view. But always keep in mind, any changes that I do to any columns here or using the edit columns, just always keep in mind that if you want to save those changes, now you would click on, it's because I haven't made any changes, you don't see the caret here for the drop down in the create view. But as soon as I make any changes, right, we should be able to see that not only do I have the asterisk, but now I can see the drop down to be able to save changes to current view, or if I want to save this as a new view, and of course I'll be able to add a name for a new view. I won't do that right now because I think you guys get the hang of this. One other thing, let me navigate to the recently viewed and the pin. So early on I mentioned that our handy dandy icon that was here at the top of our purple ribbon here in as we're used to in the training site, but now in the sandbox, was the recently viewed items. Well, that moved, and now we have it under our our left banner here. And so we can see the recent, and I really like the recent drop down here, because every time that you open a record, it's gonna be added to your recently viewed items here. And so this is very useful because we start opening records and multitasking with multiple records, and it's just handy to be able to see it here on our left banner, those records that we have opened or that we recently viewed. The other thing is that you can pin any records, anything that you're using. You know how that works. Any views that you're using, and you can pin those. So if I have a recent record that I want to pin, for example, this Virginia active premises, I can click on the pin right next to it, and that automatically adds it to my pinned records here. If I'm done using that view for the day and I don't want to see it anymore, I can remove that from my pinned, and that way I don't see it anymore, right? At least under pinned, right? Okay, that's as far as the recently viewed here on my left banner. And then one thing that I wanted to show, I'll just go to investigations here. Let's see, we're good on time. Because I just did, I was just playing around with the system and made some charts and different views so that we could have some handy dandy charts here. So this is just looking at investigations, right? So these are open FAD investigations in District 1. So of course I filtered by our incident sites, and filtered of course by FAD. And then what I wanted to do here is just looking at charts. And so you can click on the show chart icon here at the top, and that's going to bring the chart to the left side of the view, right? And then of course we have under our system charts right now, because I haven't created any personal ones, I can look at the system chart by the state or by the incident site. okay, for open investigations or open FAD investigations in District 1. And that pretty much remains the same as far as we can click on any of the bar in this case, the pie chart here, any of the sections, and to drill down. And so that's just looking at the open investigations, FAD investigations in Tennessee. You have this on the right side of the view. So you can actually, if you're like me, that I want to see things because I'm not used to it. I like having it on the left side. We can always change it, right? And so what I did is I just clicked on the more commands and I moved it to the right. So in this case, I can move it back to the left. So I thought that was handy because I do like to see my chart on the right side. But it's just because I'm used to it. And I'm sure you all are used to it as well. But just handy dandy icons that we can use. All right, from here, right, notice that now I've got just open investigations in Tennessee. I can actually save this view. Let me close the chart here real quick. But from what I filtered now, I can, because I'm only seeing Tennessee, I can actually create a view. Let me see here real quick, because it's not changing this here. I was playing with this, but I'm not sure if it's going to let me now. So this is what I was thinking about, that it's not going to change. Okay, so I still notice how in my advanced spine, even I filtered, right? I use the chart to just look at those Tennessee. It is not filtering, right? It hasn't changed that. I'm still seeing the everything for District 1, and it's not filtering Tennessee here. Okay, so and if I click on create view, it's going to go back, because I know that's going to go back to it's not going to filter that. So let me check something here as far as edit filters. All right, here we go. So one thing that if I click, that is how I clicked on the edit filters directly in the view. It's grouping the incident site equals Tennessee. And this is where we were getting some issues. So one thing that to avoid errors, and I'll show this here in a bit, what I did was that I removed, if I'm not mistaken, ungroup, so that we still have incident equals Tennessee, and then apply. Notice how now I have risk, and notice how now I can save changes to current view. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to change save. I didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do is save as a new view. So apologies on that, but I can always come back here. Since I changed this to Tennessee, it is not my open investigations in G1 anymore. It is just Tennessee. Let me go back to my advanced find here, because we can always change it. All right, so notice how the incident site, it says that we have a little error or a literal, this condition has more one lookup values that are not valid, but we can always change things, right? And I will delete the incident site. Okay, and then I just want to save as. Actually, I want to, I'll just change this. Open, and it's not G1 anymore. It's just Tennessee. Okay, So no, I've made changes there to Tennessee. So apologize if this got a little bit confusing, but we do have still some issues when it comes to creating views for investigations. We did have that little, that when we create them, let me close this real quick since that was saved. But when we create views or start playing around with views and investigations, that's what we've seen so far. We do get that group that or the filters. It puts them under a group, and then it really is having some issues in the advanced find. So that's something we're still tweaking. I know you mentioned that you're going to be looking into that. But bear with us, if you're working on views and investigations. But there are many, many ways now to be able to filter or create your views directly in the views, right? Directly in the view using the edit columns or the edit filters. But of course, you can always use your advanced find, which is what you used to. All right. Any questions? So comes to views. I think I covered the basics of view, saving, shares, and viewing charts. The same way that I shared a view, and of course you know this, you would share a chart and your dashboards as well. All right. The next, I do see I've got 1042, so I want to go to EMRS to go so that you can see this real quick. And the EMRS to go, I did cheat here a little bit because of time. I went ahead and created one ICR already, but notice that now I'm in EMRS to go and it looks very different. We've got some records in here that are being have been created for the purpose of testing. It looks different. Our briefcase doesn't have 3 ellipses here at the top. It is all directly in the EMRS application. And so, but we still have this show all, and I'm just going to look at my contact reports offline because I'm not connected. It's not ready yet. It's still under construction. And as I said, I did cheat. I already have one created offline that I saved. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click on that so that you can see how these records are being saved. But EMRS to go is pretty much the same. We can still use the drop downs, some broken or links or drop downs, that are still under construction, and that's the ones that you see in red. I pre-filled everything, which is pretty much the same. I'll click next. I do have, and this is a prem that I looked for, I cheated. And so I did verify is in the MRS. We can add something that's missing here, the farm, the premises type, that's working the same. I'll click next because it's pretty much, as I said, it's pretty much the same. Notice how now I've got the susceptible species. I click yes, so these are drop downs that pop up. Click next here, pretty much the same, our contact. And then now you can actually add your morbidity, mortality records after your primary differentials. And it's weird because I did add these. And there it is. And so I had added these, so it's still there. We still need to add, your zeros if you don't have any, and then whatever the numbers are for those applicable. So I'll click next here.
Hey, Noelle, can I interrupt you real quick? Would you mind going back to the morbidity mortality? Just show somebody something real fast, if you don't mind, please. Thank you. All right, go ahead and click to add a separate second species. Mm-hmm. All right, so you can just continue to add that and put in additional ones. Now, the contractor just fixed this week, so that's a good thing. It used to be when you clicked add 2, it kind of wiped out species 1, and you had to re-enter it. So it was best to put in, if you had 3 species, just go ahead and click 1, 2, and 3, then add them all. But it looks like just in the last 24 hours, because that wasn't fixed yesterday, he has fixed that, so now it doesn't wipe it out. So my comment is moot. So sorry about that. Thank you.
No, it's okay. So, alrighty. So hopefully if I click next, if I come back to that, Brian, it's still there, so it's working. Yay. All right. We'll click next. And of course, I did some testing for ASF surveillance. Some different specimens. So we're looking at individually identified animals where they're being collected, swabs are being collected on one specific animal. If I had any changes, to this, I can do whatever changes, update and continue. That brings me back to my samples collected. And here's another sample. I won't go into it because you guys know how to do this in EMRS to go. All right. So I'll click next here. And then this is the lab submission portion. Of course, everything is going to PR for this test. One thing I wanted to show you is that the COMPI invest is showing up. I clicked on that yesterday, but I tested. All right. And then, once this is ready, but because I had some, some items that were missing and that visit information, then of course I have validation errors. So once that's ready, this should, I'll be able to enter that and then everything will be set with my EMRs to go ICR. One thing is that since I added some information, I will update the data. I don't do the save online because I don't have that set. And then once I click here that I clicked update data, notice how there's a really small, hopefully you probably can't see it, but the data has been updated successfully. So that's as far as EMRs to go on the laptop that you'll be able to see. Would you guys be interested, or Brian, would it be worth it to show the phone interface of EMRs to go at this time?
If they have time, and if you have time, well, and if users want to see it, that's great. That'd be a good thing to do. One thing just to mention, as Noelia just said, we have the web version, which is what she just showed here. Obviously, the web version requires you to be able to access the internet to enter it in and that kind of thing. And then you can save online or save offline. Right there, it says save online. Right now, that piece isn't working only because the contractor, as of this week, is, as you know, when we upload to Go, it creates the PRIM, business investigation, lab sub, exam, clinical observations, quarantine, blah, blah, blah. It creates all that stuff via workflows in EMRS as soon as it hits. Well, he's working on that piece. And so right now we can't send, when you practice into Go, we can't send it up because those back-end pieces are being done this week. So hopefully we'll be able to do that really soon. I can tell you that, as I mentioned at the start, we're trying to hit this August 30th deadline to be able to move. The priority at this point is to get this version that Noelia just showed you, the web version, done and have everything correct. So that way we've got EMRS to go that people can streamline and enter their information if they need to. The offline piece that can go both ways is kind of that Power Apps version that you can do on the phone. It's really close to being done too, but it's got a few other bugs in it still the contractor's still working on. So we've told him, or Fred told him as of yesterday, the priority is to get that web version clean and really solid. And then we can do the phone version after we migrate if need be. Contractor seemed to indicated that he thought he could get both of them done, but we'll see how that goes. Fred did give him that priority, just so you're aware. So Noelia is fixing to show you right here what the phone looks like. And the phone's pretty cool. It works really well. It'll be great if we're doing, surveillance in Southern California again, going door to door looking for chickens in South Central LA or something sometime, because you just be able to access it all right here. So it'll be a neat feature. You've also probably noticed already that there was not a button to upload attachments. There's not a button to click to get a VS 10-4. That's all stuff that we're working with the contractor to get done as well. The goal is to have that type of stuff before we make the migration, but again, that may come after. At least get people to upload, and then we can attach in the system if we have to. But anyway, so that's kind of where we are on both these pieces. But I do think that once we get through this initial piece, these applications are going to be very user-friendly and will help us out quite a bit. But anyway, so here, Noelia, you can just click anywhere on your screen and it'll go ahead and start showing it. You don't have to wait for it to finish downloading anything there. Yep, so just tap somewhere down there where it's fuzzy. There you go. Yep.
And
I made that mistake the other day too, and I sat there forever, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I tapped it out of frustration. You know how violence always works with electronics, right? tapped it out of frustration and it went. So there you go.
All right. Well, let me go back. And there is a significant delay compared to when we were sharing screen.
One other thing too, Noelia, before you go, if you take you can see me up there in the picture. If you just kind of swipe that to the right, it'll disappear for you. There you go.
Okay, there. Now it's clean. But like I said, there is a delay. And promise, guys, I won't keep you too much because I know we all have things to do after the hour. So I just wanted to show you the mobile app, EMRS, and it's pretty much the same information, right, that you just saw. I am in the samples collection. I can go back. Let me just go back here. I did not know I could do that. But all right. But like I said, there's a delay. But I'm back to my briefcase because I was playing with this. And if I want to see notice how at the top, I'm just seeing the contact reports offline, which is the same thing I showed you in the laptop version. And so I'll just click on the one that I'm interested in editing. And then you'll be able to see the same things, right? But one thing on the mobile app is that you just need to make sure that you are moving up and down the screen because you won't be able to see everything on your screen, right? Everything you need to see. So you just have to make sure, if you play around with any phone, that you're just moving or swiping right down so that you can see everything as you fill those in. Of course, I pre-filled everything, so I could just move next. And it's pretty much the same. But I just wanted to show you how it's moving because I am moving. Of course, I'm using my finger to swipe up and down the screen. All right. I'll just click next, and you can see everything is pretty much the same. When it comes to the susceptible species, I don't have to swipe up and down because everything is, you're able to see it on the screen. All right. So that's pretty much it as far as the mobile app. I am very excited about this mobile app. I think it's going to be very useful for field employees, but it is not a priority right now, as Brian mentioned, but I look forward to field folks being able to use the mobile app. So I will stop there. Let's see if I can figure this out. I'm going to stop share for the mobile app. Stop presenting because I just learned how to do that a couple of days ago. All right, and I think because I of things I wanted to go over with you.
While you're looking for that, Noelle, I just want to tell you that there were some questions in the chat that Brian and I addressed during the course of your talking. So I think the questions that were asked have mostly been answered.
Okay, thank you so much because I can't see the chat. So thank you for taking care of that. One thing that I do wanted to mention is, what's next. And as I mentioned earlier today, we want you to test as much as you can for the network associates. We want network associates to test as much as you can. And then send us anything that you see that's not working, any errors that you come up with or that you see. Please send us an email. You can send it to the EMRS support email, or you can send it to any of the staff specialists. Right. The other thing for network associates is that we're recommending, because I'm sure you have many, many views that over the years you've built and shared with your states. And so we're not going to necessarily, or Fred is not necessarily going to migrate all of the views. So we're asking that you clean up those views to the ones that you need to prioritize, to the ones that are current and that others, states or other users depend on. Once you clean up those lists or those views, Fred will be able to migrate the views for network associates. And that applies to views, charts, dashboards, advanced map packages, etc. right? You can inactivate views that you don't necessarily want to delete. You can always deactivate those, so you keep those. Or you can take screenshots of views so that you know how to build them later on. And the other thing is, once we get Power Apps migrated, or image migrated to Power Apps, we'll be asking you to do training sessions, not just with your power users, but with your states. And so we ask that you start thinking about scheduling either demos similar to this as you feel comfortable. And eventually, we'll start doing sessions. But we depend on network associates to spread the word and spread the knowledge. And so always reach out to me if you need anything additional. And of course, reach out to any of our EMRS staff specialists on the team. So with that, Brian, I will pass it back to you for anything else before we wrap up.
It looks like you have one other question first. Well, Val, what you have?
Yeah, thanks. Just so real quick to clarify for the EMRS Network Associates on the call. So in terms of the views, if we've already done cleanup and whatnot of the views, especially like, for example, I've got some that are for New England states, so all 6 states. Is there anything further I have to do with those? Like a lot of those views I've shared with individuals within New England, but I haven't shared with either. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to share with a specific state, maybe Massachusetts. But is there anything further I have to do with those if they've been cleaned up and I've got the views that I want to keep right now in the different entities in EMRS?
Great question. So first and foremost, I would strongly recommend that everybody on the call who has views that are regularly used, that you would take preparations to be able to rebuild those provided something breaks when they're supposed to move, i.e. they get left behind. So go ahead and take screenshots of any that you've got that you might need to rebuild. As Noelia mentioned somewhere, I think, or she may have said it or it was in the chat, but the old system, the current system we're in today, when we make this migration, we're going to leave it as read. It's going to go read only. So you still be able to access it, you still be able to see it, but you won't be able to enter any information in it. Part of the big reason for that is so folks can go back, and if they need to rebuild a view or something, they can click open that advanced find and see how they did it, and then basically copy it over to the new Power Apps. Because as Noelia showed you, the advanced find button looks the exact same, right? So you can just basically rebuild the thing. With that being said, the vast majority of users will not have any views that they build carried over, okay? The only ones that will, primarily for the most part, are going to be EMRS Network Associates who've cleaned up their stuff, and other folks that have reached out and let us know that, hey, this one's critical. I have a state that's using it every day, particularly for high-path AI or whatever it may be. We have, and I'm not throwing any stones because I am one of the worst offenders of this, but I've got thousands and thousands of views, it seems like, that I don't use anymore, that I need to get through and clean back up. Okay. With that being said, so specifically to your question, Val, once you have yours tightened up, that like, hey, I'd really like these to move, you need to package those up and send a list of those to Fred. And Fred has a back end piece that he moves them over with. He has to, and it's kind of intensive, a little bit later, how he has to select the user and what views and all that good stuff. So as you can imagine, he can't do that for all 700 plus users that we've got. So that's why we're tying it down to just network associates for the most part and going that route. But I would encourage you to do that. Once you have them, send them to him. And then at the same time, just in case something doesn't quite work right, take your own screenshots so you can rebuild that if need be. Same goes for dashboards, advanced maps. That's the same type of deal there. Unless they're shared with the state, being used on an active incident, they're probably not going to come. But they will, as far as the key ones that we've had for old incidents that are associated to an incident. But individual users that they've built for your own use, those might not be migrated. So keep that all in mind.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. So with that being said,
all right. Well, it's top of the hour. Maybe.
Yep. Go ahead, Noelia. That's it. It's back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, so I do have one more minute, I see, and so I wanted to respect all of your time. Sorry, I went a little bit over, but these are important things, right, that I'm sure you wanted to see. All right, well, reach out once again if you need anything. I'm sure you can schedule, whatever you need with your states. And so we're here to help you, and we're here to keep it calm as we transition or migrate to Power Apps. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you again on Friday. Bye, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye. Nice job, Dana.